Am I the jerk for being tired of my mom and sister? I, a 28-year-old female, find myself growing tired of my mom and my little sister, who is 16 years old. My mom had a car when I was very young, but for most of my childhood and teenage years, we had one car, and my dad drove us around. My mom has astigmatism and never really liked to drive, so I guess it worked for them. My parents got divorced when I was 18. Mom started dating soon after. He picked up the mantle as chauffeur for my mom and sister. Mom got a car for the first time in over a decade and would drive to and from work while my stepdad would drop my sister off at school, pick her up and do all the other driving. They divorced at the end of last year. My sister is more active than ever. This past June, she did a month-long program 7 hours away. There's no way my mom can make that drive, and if she did, it would be more like 12 hours. So I rented a car, drove them there and drove back. I rented another car a month later to do it again. It was my first time driving that far and long, and it was tiring. I only got 10 vacation days from my job and used 2 for this. My mom wanted to go to an event in July, and instead of buying plane tickets like I thought she would do, she said, "We," meaning me, "can just drive there. It's the same amount of time, 7 hours." So I used another vacation day, rented a car, and drove them there and back. I had a nice time and was happy to see some family, but I was glad to get home and be done driving. Now my sister just has to go to this concert 3 hours away in September. I told her okay, I'll rent another car and take her. Luckily, I don't have to use a vacation day this time. I text my sister all the time, but she never texts back. She's a teenager and keeps her phone on Do Not Disturb, so I get it. She texted me last night, finally replying to a text I sent weeks ago. Then came the also, "Do you think you can drop me off and pick me up at this program I'm doing later in September? It's 3 hours away." I didn't respond because I was annoyed. Then my mom texted me this morning to ask if I can pick my sister up from practice tomorrow evening, and I just want to scream. I'm growing tired of spending so much money on rentals and driving hours away. I'm tired of giving up the few vacation days I have. I'm tired of giving up my weekends for my sister just to be ignored any other time. I'm 28 years old and live with my aunt, trying to save for my own place. My own car needs work done that I know will be more than $1,000. I don't have any children, but if I did, I feel like they wouldn't ask me to do all this. A part of me wants to just say no. Then another part of me feels selfish. Am I the antagonist? Your sister doesn't have to go to a concert. She wants to, and your mom can help get her there. It seems like you're picking up your mom's slack here, and your time is valuable and cannot be taken for granted. Have an honest and polite chat because, from their perspective, they likely think you love doing this for them. If this blows up, know that you aren't the asshole and you cannot be taken for granted. Am I the jerk for canceling our trip? So, my boyfriend wanted to go on a road trip and suggested some dates, so I started planning because these dates were only a month away. I planned the route, activities, and accommodation. I sent him all of the details and he agreed to it. We then held off booking because he wanted to check if his friends could come. They couldn't. I checked the original plan and some things had sold out, so I had to replan the whole route and accommodation. I asked him if he could help me replan and book, and he said he would be free in the evening. Last minute, he told me he was tired and had work in the morning and asked if I could just sort it out. He was sorry and said that he trusted me to book it all. I stayed up until 1 a.m. rearranging everything, which was difficult as there were things I needed to ask him, so I ended up planning but not booking so I could ask him in the morning. Morning rolled around, I ran the new plan past him and he said, "Great, let's do it," so I booked it. I booked and paid for it all. I then told him the price breakdown and he questioned the cave activity. I said, "Yes, the cave trip I sent you. This cave trip is at Zip World." Now my boyfriend has a fear of heights, so I purposely didn't book the zip lines, but I saw the caves experience. Since a few weeks ago we did a cave trip, and he has done some height-based activities, I thought he might be okay with it. I also sent him the information about the activity before I booked it. He said he was happy with it. Now he basically turned around and said that I knew he doesn't like heights, and that I had purposely booked it to spite him because he didn't help with the planning. I mentioned that I had sent him information about this activity days ago, and that he had agreed. At this point, I realized he hadn't bothered to look into anything I had sent him about this trip. All of this planning and effort I put in for the trip he wanted to do, and he couldn't even look up the things I had planned? At this point, and here's where I might be the bad person, I decided to cancel the whole trip. I'm always the one planning and sorting stuff for us to do. If it wasn't for me, we'd practically never have plans. This was the thing that pushed me over the edge. If he had said in the first place he didn't want to do the caves, that would have been fine. It's the fact that multiple times I asked for help, I sent him the information to check, and then once I booked it, now he wants to actually look into what we're doing. Luckily, I managed to get a refund on everything, although I did lose out on the booking fees. Now that I've canceled it, I am feeling a bit of regret because I made the decision while emotional, but I also think I'm upset because I was super excited for this trip, and now it's not happening. My boyfriend has apologized, but it's been hostile since, and he decided to stop messaging me, so now I do feel like the bad person and just need to know if I am or not. I think you are not in the wrong here. Your boyfriend let you do all the work, ignored your requests for input, and then got angry when you booked what you had discussed. He's showing some serious red flags with his ungrateful and rude behavior. Let him deal with the FOMO while you find a friend to enjoy the trip with instead. Am I the jerk for making dinner for us as soon as I got there while he talked? So I started dating a guy about 6 weeks ago. Our schedules are opposite of each other, so we have been spending the weekends together. This past Saturday, I got off work at 7. I went and bought everything needed to make homemade tacos, salsa and chips, and items to make breakfast the following morning. I get to his apartment and he comes down to help take everything up to his floor. He told me on the way up that the maintenance man was there to fix something. Cool, right? Wrong. They were talking about football, and I started to cook dinner. The maintenance guy was there long enough for me to make the hamburger for tacos, then he left. I asked for the strainer for the hamburger meat. He stood up off the couch and said, "I hate that you're being pushy." I asked what he was talking about. He said I came in and started making dinner without giving him any attention right away. I told him he was talking to the maintenance guy, so I figured I would get started because I had worked 8 hours and was starving because I hadn't eaten all day. I went and sat down. I was crying at this point. Then he handed me the remote as I was sitting on the couch and said, "Here, change the channel since you don't like MMA." Then he said, "Let me turn down my music since you don't like it loud." I said, "This is your house. You can do whatever." He blared his music on the 4th floor of his apartment building, and I know that people all around him could hear it. You couldn't even hear the TV over the music. You couldn't even think straight because it was so loud. I just said he should turn it down some. I don't like fighting MMA because I have dealt with abuse my whole life. I asked him if he wanted me to leave because he just kept complaining. I thought I was doing something nice by making dinner. He said no, but then he proceeded to keep ranting at me. I got up and told him to enjoy his dinner and breakfast. I put my shoes on and left. Am I the bad person for getting dinner started while they talked? Am I the bad person for leaving? I think you are not in the wrong here. You're only 6 weeks into this relationship, so now's the perfect time to cut your losses before you're in too deep. With a history of abuse, those red flags can be even more glaring, and this behavior is definitely not a sign of a healthy relationship. He was upset over nothing and then threw a verbal temper tantrum. It's time to move on. Am I the jerk for asking my friend to stop bringing up my family's money? So, as you can imagine from the title, I come from some money. My father is a doctor in the USA and has done well. I'm not sure how much he is worth, but I would say at least $5 million. I obviously grew up privileged, but did not realize we were actually rich versus upper middle class until we moved to a richer city and to a big house when I was 12. Anyways, I was always taught not to talk about money. My parents have always been really kind and generous and have taught me to always share. My parents use their money when they can to help others. They also help me when I need it. For example, I needed to borrow money recently, and they did so happily. I am in the process of paying them back. Here's the thing. I have never shown off that I have money in my family because obviously that would be gross behavior. However, one of my good friends brings it up all the time. She will say, "Well, I bet blah 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 because they have so much money." She mentioned it when I said that I would be getting financial aid. I am going back to school and am 27 years old, so obviously, I do not get their money anymore, nor am I considered a dependent, so my financial aid is looking decent. She brought up how it was good, how I am going now versus earlier because my parents are so rich. I know that this may not seem like a big deal, but she says it in front of people I just met. She acts like my parents have endless money, in the sense that she said they do not buy Gucci and other expensive stuff. I suppose they could afford some Gucci, but they do not have that attitude. I actually do not think that would be sustainable for their retirement long term. Anyways, I told her I was a little uncomfortable with these comments in front of people I hardly know. Her reaction seemed irritated. She was standoffish for a while, and I could tell she told my other friend because they both seemed off for the rest of the day. I have had many people growing up treating me differently because I have money in my family. Anytime I would have a conflict with friends, I would get called a rich, spoiled girl simply for expressing my feelings. Maybe that is where it comes from, and I do not know if it is cringy for me to hide the fact my family has money. But I know if I was constantly saying out loud how rich my family was, it would be distasteful. For that reason, I find it distasteful coming out of my friend's mouth. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. Your friend is giving out your private and personal information, which is not only a boundary invasion, but could be extremely dangerous. It's a good quality not to want to flex about wealth, and it's important to communicate if something in the conversation makes you uncomfortable. She sounds incredibly jealous and was being rude and obnoxious, so you were right to call her out on it. Am I the jerk for defending my friend from a manipulative mother? My friend Brian has been dealing with family drama due to his mother, Linda. She presents herself as a perfect mother but is controlling and dismissive of her children's feelings. Linda often twists stories to make herself look better, which is taking a toll on everyone. Brian's sibling Sarah recently came out as transgender and is now Caleb. Before Caleb's transition, Linda would not let Sarah be open about dating women, claiming it was too dangerous and hid it from Sarah's grandparents, saying it would kill them. This secrecy deeply affected Caleb's mental health. When Caleb went to college, he finally got some freedom and started therapy. During his first year, his grades were not great, but by summer, he felt ready to tell his family about his true identity. Caleb broke the news while away at a summer job, which shocked the family. Linda did not handle it well. When she visited for Brian's baby shower, she spent the whole time talking about how Caleb was mentally ill and how nobody who is transgender can ever be successful. She left the shower early, upset that Brian and his wife did not rush home to spend more time with her. The next day she broke down, screaming, "My life is over." When Caleb confronted Linda about this, she denied everything and accused Brian of betraying her confidence. As the baby's arrival got closer, tension between Linda and Caleb grew. Caleb tried to make amends that summer by apologizing to Linda's boss where he was working. But Linda blamed him for everything, including losing a deposit on a rental. Caleb, only 18 years old and without a job, relied on Linda to cover his car payments. Later, she accused him of stealing the car, though she was paying for it. Linda should have used life insurance money from Caleb's father for these expenses. Instead, she spent it on a sailboat, deciding that buying a boat for a 12-year-old was a good idea. Caleb pursued sailing for 2 years before wanting to sell the boat, but Linda refused. Money meant for Caleb's future was wasted on a boat he did not want. That Thanksgiving, Linda was upset Caleb was not there but still refused to acknowledge his transition, calling him by his old name. It was as if she wanted to pretend Caleb did not exist and that she still had Sarah. So, am I the antagonist for defending Caleb and calling Linda out on her behavior? I want what's best for Brian, his wife, and their baby. They should not have to deal with this, and neither should Caleb. Every mother has an image of her child that she's built in her head. The vast majority of mothers adjust it as needed and allow it to grow and change with their child. This is delusional. That mother cannot truly see her child. Am I the jerk for canceling my own wedding? Am I the jerk for calling off my wedding? I, 29-year-old female, and my now ex-boyfriend, 32-year-old male, have been together for 5 years and agreed to get married. My boyfriend and I met at a bar and immediately hit it off. We texted and went on dates for about 2 months. What I didn't know back then was that he had a girlfriend, 22-year-old female, who didn't know about us, and I didn't know about her. After 2 years, I got suspicious because my boyfriend was always away every other night. I was financially stable and supporting him instead of him supporting me. He talked to me about wanting to be a house husband and always tried to practice cooking. He insisted on it. 2 years later, he finally agreed to get a job, but was a bit moody after coming back from his job as a teacher. I work in finance. When I talked to him about not getting moody, it felt like I was talking to a 5-year-old about not sucking his thumb. He eventually did get better but stopped having any sexual activities weekly, and now it's more of a once-a-month thing. I felt bad the first month of getting rejected by him, but this year we planned things out, and it got better. Back to his girlfriend, what she explained to me is what I'll continue with. He got into an argument with her and threw a tantrum, so that's why this year he respected me and made love with me. 4 weeks ago, we were supposed to have a wedding. I got a text from a random girl on Facebook who I didn't know. She told me that my boyfriend had been cheating on her with me from the start of my relationship with him. She broke up with him after finding out about our relationship and wedding. She called me a lot of bad stuff for getting with him in the first place. I did something I think I shouldn't have done. I told my boyfriend, and he denied everything, but I could tell from his voice he was lying. I broke down crying and went to my parents' house. I told them I wanted to cancel my wedding because of this. They yelled at me because I had asked my parents to do some planning for the wedding since I was bad at that. I think this is where I might be the asshole. My parents had been planning my wedding for about 7 months, and so did my boyfriend's family. I told them to quiet down and not yell at me. They definitely had enough of me and decided not to talk to me for the whole day. The whole wedding would have cost me around $50,000, which my parents aren't contributing to. Just me and my boyfriend. A lot of people, including half my family and all of his family, are calling me names because my boyfriend spread lies that I left him because of money issues. As I said, I'm financially stable and don't need to have a man support me in any way. I just need a man with a job so they can at least take care of themselves instead of me taking care of a man that doesn't do anything. Am I the asshole for canceling my own wedding for a cheater, or am I overreacting? Your actions don't make you a jerk. Your ex was lying and cheating on you for years, and canceling the wedding is the right move. If your parents want you to stay with someone like that, they aren't looking out for your best interests. Don't hesitate to make a clean break and live your best life without anyone who gives you flack for it. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.